Hello, YouTube. All right. Hope everybody's doing well. Um, Yesterday, I was getting a feed on my Facebook. I belong to a lot of computer type groups, nerd groups, and they were announcing that the inventor, if you want to call him that, of copy and paste, computers, how you can copy and paste text and pictures and things like that, died yesterday. He used to work at Xerox. I guess that's where they came up with the GUI. What we have is our graphical front end for computers and even phones and stuff now. They kind of came up with it at Xerox. Well, this guy worked at Xerox, and I guess he came up with the concept of copy and paste, which is what people do in like publication and things like that. You cut, copy, and you paste. Okay. Well, he died, and so there's been a lot of interest in him, and I was reading his biography and noticed something that he said that was very important. He had made like a lot of money off his work with Xerox. Then later on, he went to work for Apple. But one of his statements, one of his quotes on there was something that I think is very true, and it is, I think, one of the biggest secrets of life. And it's not just him that has realized that, but people that I guess some people might respect, even though, I'm not really the title or even money or anything like that makes me earn somebody earn my respect, but their behavior, okay? And what he said was this: you get to a certain point in your life. Now, he's like a billionaire, I mean, a millionaire, or rich, or whatever, okay? But he made the statement. I think he's the only one I've seen the statement from, but you'll see a lot of billionaires do this, especially those who are like, at least in the technology field, at least those are the ones that I've tracked and watched, including like Bill Gates. Even I think, is it Bezos or whatever his name is, the guy that came up with Amazon? I think he does this too. But what you're going to find is all the gazillionaires, all the billionaires, okay, the rich people of the world, pretty much, the top richest people, they all figured this out. But it took them becoming gazillionaires before they could figure it out. Although I've already had several people on this channel that I feel are already at that level, and they've earned my respect because they already know something that it took these other people such a long time to figure out. These other people, when I talk about the guy that came out with Amazon or even Bill Gates, he didn't start doing this until further along in his career, when he was pretty much retired from computing, from running the business. And he started setting up all these foundations and whatnot and giving it away. And what it is this. It's helping people, helping humanity. What I found was that, and this was a statement that was made by the guy that did the copy paste. He said that when you get to a certain point in your life, you come to realize that the only thing really worth doing is helping people. Because honestly, everything else, like earning money and building a for yourself or a title, they really mean nothing in the end. What really means anything is what you did for others. What you've managed to do for others. So the thing about it is this. I think that if you can jump ahead, like a lot of people, I know they're in a race to earn money or make money because you feel like money is, I found out, it doesn't solve your problems. Money is just money, okay? It might give you some privilege and some power, but really, as far as what it does for you as a person, it doesn't really do anything, So I point it out because I think that the majority of people think that the acquisition of money, the act of trying to acquire money and stuff, is the end-all goal in life, is to become like a Bill Gates or a Bezos or whatever his name, or even what's his name, the SpaceX guy. I can't remember. My brain is fried. I can't think. I got so much stuff in my head right now I got to do. But basically, it took them becoming a billionaire, gazillionaire, to come to the realization that doing that wasn't really what they want to do with their life. What they really want to do with their life is try to do things to help people. I was just reading real quick there, one of the comments, somebody was talking about, reducing humanity and stuff like that. Academically, if you look at it, there are too many humans. I know some people will hate me for that, to say that. But honestly, what's happening is, I don't think it's so much too many humans. It has to do with greed to an extent, okay? If you look at things on a nerd perspective, like Bill Gates might, because somebody was mentioning Bill Gates and saying, well, his idea of helping the world is reducing humans, reducing the number of people, which really mathematically and nerdedly is the solution. Okay, now I'm not one for reducing humanity, but I can understand where that's coming from, because it has to do with this. I'm going to simplify it. If you have 10 apples, that's all you have is 10 apples, okay? And you have one person, they can eat all 10 apples. They can get so fat. Well, we're pretending, okay? So play along with me. They have 10 apples. They can have more than enough apples to eat. They can get fat on it, and they still have leftover apples. There's just so many apples. There's only one person and 10 apples. Now, if you start to increase the number of humans to the point where you have 5 people, okay, they're still in abundance because there's still 10 apples. So they each can have 2 apples. And they can still be relatively happy with 2 apples because they got 1 and they got 1 to spare. Now, when you up the number to 10 people and 10 apples, it starts to get a little hard now, because you have 1 apple, which is enough to sustain you, but you don't really have a backup. You kind of better make that 1 apple last. The problem is, if you have 50 people and only 1 apple, you're going to have people doing bad stuff to each other, fighting over that 1 apple. Even though really it's not even enough to sustain the 15. It's only really enough to sustain like 1. So all 15 are going to fight over that 1 apple. And imagine if you have 50 people. They're all going to fight over 1 apple. But it's not even going to be enough for them, because when they finish, ultimately it can only sustain 1. All the others will lose. And when they fight over it, that 1 apple becomes worthless because they destroy it in the process. And I think that's what Bill Gates and all the other rich people you see are, because they're doing the math. Anyone looking at the math will say, hey, this is not right. This is not going to work. We're doomed. We're heading towards oblivion. Okay? So do I believe in population control? Somewhat. Do I believe that government or whatever should be controlling the population? No. Do I think people need to be aware of it? Yes. Because it comes to the whole analogy of the apples. Now, one of the problems is this, and some people will point this out and say it could be considered kind of racist to an extent, is that more developed countries, that have a lot of math, have a lot of nerds, have a lot of scientists that actually do the calculations and look at the situation, they say there's not enough apples to go around. There's not enough apples to go around, therefore we need to reduce the people. And that's what you see happening in developed countries. Most developed countries, okay, they're trying to get their population down to an ideal situation, which isn't there yet, is for every 2 adults, like every male and every female, they should be having 2 kids, 1 male and 1 female, okay? The problem is, unless you regulate it with governmental controls, that won't happen. So you have situations like right now in Europe where it's really messed up because for whatever reason, a lot of the Europeans are not reproducing. They're not able to have babies. They're either infertile for some reason, or they just don't want babies because they do the math and they go, if I have one kid, I could give all my love to that one kid. The two people can give their love to one kid and provide for that kid everything. If they have 5 kids, the 2 people have to split the resources up to the 5 kids. That means each kid, to an extent, suffers in the sense that they don't get the full access to all the resources. They have to share it with 4 other siblings. So in developed countries and developed cultures, people tend to reduce the number of children that they have. That's why, like in America, I think for the most part, I'm not trying to be racist or anything, but for the most part, educated families tend to have 1 or 2 children, because they feel that having more than 1 or 2 kids is not fair for the children, because there's not enough resources, there's not enough apples to go around. Then you get those who are either less educated or really don't care. They have lots of babies, but then they can't even take care of those babies. Okay, they have so many babies, like they have 50 babies, and there's still only 1 apple to go around. That's kind of a problem. So the reason I bring all this up is it's not just that, okay? It's the fact that, I mean, some of you are looking at it saying, well, the rich people are saying this. The rich people have gotten to the point, and this is not really connected to being rich. It's connected to them becoming enlightened, okay? I'm going to tell you there were some enlightened people on this channel already that you have met, sort of. And some of you may not have even known that, but I knew they were enlightened. One of them was like Walter. You ever wonder why some people do some really crazy stuff, like try to help me out to the point where it almost doesn't seem to make sense? Like Walter pretty much let me use his house. He could have rented it out and made money on it. He let me use the house for like a year, and I actually went over, because I couldn't get out in time, and he extended it a little bit for me. It's not just being kind, okay? It's being enlightened. He understands that there's actually something high. It's not saying Walter doesn't need money, okay? It's not saying that, because he was struggling financially too. I'm not going to get into people's personal businesses and stuff, but some people think that those people who help me are like financially independent, that they're super wealthy or something. They're not, okay? But they have a value to them that is higher than money. They already know something that Bill Gates and all these others who it took them to become billionaires to realize. These other people already know at an earlier stage in life. They already know that money isn't everything. But it's what you do and how you live and how you interact with others and what your beliefs are and what you do to help people, to try to help a situation or a person or even a group. So I pointed out because I just wanted to share that little bit of enlightenment in case I'm going to put it point blank for those of you who may not understand why I pointed out. But it took these other people so long because they were rushing to acquire money. And when they got so much money, they found there was nowhere else to go. They really, once you have all that money, more money than you can spend, more money than you need, you realize that the money really is nothing, okay? But it's what the money can help you, though. Then they try to rectify the situation by setting up these foundations and whatnot. And, we could talk about this debate. If you guys like stuff like talking really deep stuff about world overcrowding and other things like that and racism or whatever, issues that might be hot topics, a little bit hot for YouTube, and they may not be monetized because of that. But, maybe we can talk about it on Pay It Forward, because that channel is almost got enough people to go live. Soon we'll be doing that, and I'll be doing these discussions on there instead of on here. But I wanted to point that out because of the death of the copy-paste guy, and it was one of his lasting words that, that he left behind, was that, at a certain point, you find that all that money, all that wealth, all that title, all that privilege really means nothing. And I point that out because you don't have to be a Bill Gates, you don't have to be Jeff Bezos or whatever, you don't have to be any of these rich people, okay? You could be somebody like Walter, you could be somebody like Timothy, you could be somebody like Connie, you could be somebody like Richard Jameson. You could be like all these people who they haven't they haven't had the need to reach the end of money acquisition to realize that there's something more important than acquisition of wealth. Now, that is also kind of like my philosophy, and some people don't understand why, even though I'm still apparently struggling, I seem to be, trying to push helping people, and will actually divert some of my money and some of my resources and some of my time to help others who are in need. And the reason has to do with realizing and knowing that no matter how much money you have, no matter how much you get, no matter how far along, if you want to call that, in life you get with money or title or privilege, if you don't work on the other part of life, okay, which is seeing the bigger picture, that we are all, and then, this, when you start talking about this stuff, people can get angry, people can get hurt, people get upset, because it comes down to your core beliefs. What you believe we are as people, what you believe we are as living beings. Are we children of God? Are we just random life forms? Are we aliens? Are we whatever? People just think you're born, you live, you acquire as much as you can, then you die. And that's their driving force in life, and it's what they use to guide their actions. But for me, to think of myself as just being born, and while I'm alive here, I just take advantage of everything, and then I die, I have to say to myself, what the heck was the point? Okay? What was the point of you even existing if your only existence, your only reason for being here was to basically take advantage of everything? If that was your sole reason for existing. And then a baby that does the same thing? Do you understand what I'm saying? For me, I do believe that life is a gift. Whether you want to say it's from God or from whatever, from your parents, from whatever, that life is something that was given to us. But the journey that we take in life is our own. And not everyone has the same journey. Some people have a life that others look at and think is much harder than their life or the life of the people that they see around them. But everybody has their own life journey, and it's different. Even the journey of life between siblings. You could have a brother and sister, or two sisters or two brothers or whatever, and even their path in life is different. Now, granted, they might start the same, because they're in the same family, same household, and raised by the same parents. But at a certain point, pretty much since they're born, each individual starts their own path. And if you come to the realization that acquisition of money or title or wealth is not the end-all goal, okay, it allows you to actually go faster than Bill Gates or Bezos and all those others, because for most of their adulthood, their young adulthood, on through to them becoming senior citizens now, they spent that time trying to acquire money. And it wasn't until later, when they got all that money, that they saw it was almost useless to an extent. I mean, the money can be used for good, but I know if you were to talk to these people, I already know, okay, without even talking to them. But if you were to talk to Bill Gates and some of these other people and say, do you wish you'd known then what you know now? And they would tell you, more than likely, that they would have started giving sooner, that they would have started caring more about the rest of the world sooner, that they would have started caring about other people sooner. Because it turns out that your life, regardless of however long you have been given to live, okay, doesn't ever really seem long enough. And some people, they don't even live that long. I know that health-wise, some people live very long. Some people look healthy. Some people are extremely healthy. They eat nothing but healthy foods. And then they get in a car wreck, you know, or some other crazy stuff happens to them. So how you live your life doesn't determine how long you live. It can affect it, certainly, but it's almost like luck, you know, what happens to you. You can determine, though, the kind of life you want to live up to the point that you die. So if you like eating organic food, healthy foods, that's how you live and that's how you eat. I don't say that that lifestyle is any better than somebody who eats nothing but fattening food and sugar and candy and drinks and smokes and does all these so-called bad things, these vices, okay? I don't think one lifestyle is necessarily better than another. I think it is a personal choice for each and every one of us to make. I do feel sad for people who are, you know, hooked on drugs because they can't stand the reality of whatever situation they're having to deal with, and they feel they need to escape from that situation by doing drugs or drinking or whatever, you know, whatever their addiction is that makes them numb or forget, at least for a moment, the issues that are bothering them. So that was just my thought, you know, when I saw the meme about the copy paste guy, and I was like, you know, I know some people already know this and I know this, but I wonder if any of my viewers actually pay attention to this kind of stuff. And I know a lot of people don't. They think it gets too deep, too nutty, too weird, you know, because everybody has their own perspective based on their own life experiences. You know, not everyone experiences the same thing or sees the same things. Like if I told you stuff about my life, some people might not be shocked. Some people would be extremely shocked. You know, all the things that have happened to me since being born. You know, like I was born in the Vietnam War, the middle of the Vietnam War, you know, and in a country that was assisting America in war. So I grew up, you know, in that environment where we were actually afraid in Thailand that America, when it started losing the Vietnam War, would just pull out a nuclear warhead and just bomb the whole damn place. I know you guys may not understand that, but for all the Asian countries that were living there, you know, because America did it to Japan, they also did it to you know, you can get into racist like that, you know, when you start talking about this, people get really angry about race and stuff. But to be honest, I don't think you can deny that stuff like that comes into play, that people are more trusting or nicer to those who are similar to them. You know, when people have to make a decision, ultimately, they tend to, not everyone, mind you, you get those exceptions, but generally people will side towards somebody who is similar to them automatically. Like if you didn't know anything about someone, now like some of you watch this channel and you have like YouTubers that you like, you know, whatever, and some of you will pick me, even though I may look different than you and be from a different culture than you, versus somebody who is similar to you because you like my personality or whatever more. But see, that's because you took the time to actually get to know me. You know, you watch the videos, you say, hey, you know what? He's a decent human being or whatever. I like him. So at that point, you don't see facade. You don't see the skin. You don't see the eyes. You don't see the broken tooth. You don't see all this. You see the soul. You see the essence of somebody. And you can accept them at a deeper level and appreciate the living creature that they are. Not even a man, a male or a female, an Asian or a Caucasian, an American or a foreigner or whatever, but a fellow creature just like you. At that point, I think you're at the highest level, you know. It's hard to get to that level, and I myself am not at that level, okay? Because whenever you see somebody for the first time, when I say see, because most of us, I guess our most important sense is sight. You know, I think that's what we rely on probably the most, is sight. So we see something, we see someone, and we automatically create a facade, an image of what they are like, the kind of person they are, how they live and everything. And it's based on whatever knowledge we have of them. And if we have no knowledge of them, then we don't have anything to base, we don't have any biasness. But almost everyone born into the world is born with biasness. Even myself, we have biases. And it's okay to have them. I don't know if they're good or bad. I can tell you for the most part, I think they're bad, because it causes you to have prejudices that aren't based on facts, but based on what you were taught or what you think is true. I don't know if you understand that. But just because someone is Asian, I laugh at, was it Wang? Was it Wang, Harry? Was it Harry Wang? Whatever his name is. Wang, that was running for president, but he dropped out now because he did the math. Because Asians are good at math. Okay. That is a bias that isn't true. Okay. I know a lot of Asians who aren't good at math. Matter of fact, a lot of people thought I was good at math. This is, I can only talk about myself because I have the most experience with myself, as far as my personality and what happened to me as a human in the past, how people treated me and with biases and stuff like that. But believe it or not, my strongest, academic or skill that I have possessed is not math, as far as academic skills. It was actually reading and writing. And the reason it was reading and writing, even though I was pretty good at math, I was pretty good at math because I enjoyed math. Math for me when I was younger was like a game. It was a game where, for the most part, you could actually find a real answer. It was more concrete than most things. Like, 2 plus 2 pretty much would always be 4. Whether or not you called it the number 4 or whatever, the concept of 2 items and 2 more items meant you had 4 items. But language, on the other hand, was a little bit more subtle. It's a little bit more interesting and more of a challenge, and harder, much harder to become accomplished with than mathematics. So it's a challenge. And for me, coming to America, it was something that I placed a high priority on a personal front, because I wanted to learn the language. I had to learn the language to communicate with these people, these light-skinned people, these dark-skinned people, these people that we call Americans. They look different than me. These people with the round eyes. They have the round eyes instead of the slanted or the tiny little eyes like Asians have. So for me to try to communicate with these people, I had to try to master their language. I had to even try to learn to speak as they do, to not sound like an Asian, to not sound like a foreigner, but to blend in and sound like one of them, okay? And so I placed a lot of emphasis, and this was even as a child, on learning the exact pronunciation, trying to learn it and become very, very proficient at it. So here's the thing. I'm actually stronger in language skills, I guess, than I am in mathematics. But when people meet me and they see that I'm Asian, they automatically assume that I'm better at math than I am at language. If you understand what I'm talking about. Like when I worked in the military, I was working as a newspaper editor. That was language, not mathematics. Although we had mathematics, I had to do scaling and all sorts of other stuff for laying out the page. But most of my skills that I relied upon for public affairs, public relations, was language-based. And what was interesting about it was, my last name, De Boer, it's not Asian. It's actually European. It's Dutch, from Holland. And it means the farmer. So what was interesting was I dealt with a lot of people on the telephone when I was in the Air Force. So, if you want to get an idea of what it's like, if you close your eyes and just listen to my voice and try to picture this person, if you didn't know me, what would you picture? Well, on the military base at Grissom Air Force Base, I talk to a lot of people on the telephone. I call them up and I say, "Hi, this is Airman DeBoer calling to see if I can do a telephone interview with you regarding whatever was going on." And sure enough, they would say, "Yeah, they'll grant me the interview," and then I'll interview them on the phone. And then the story runs. So they have this preconceived notion of who I am and what I am and how I look and everything based upon nothing but a voice on the other end of a telephone and what they read in the base newspaper. So what would be very interesting for me, and I always got a kick out of it, was every once in a while, I would actually pay a personal visit to an office. And I'll walk in there. I'll walk into there to that sergeant or whatever, or that airman or whoever that I've been dealing with for 2 years, and walk up to them and say, "Hi, I'm Airman DeBoer here to talk to you about," and you should just look at their face. And you almost want to crack up because their face goes like, "Holy schmoly," because you look nothing like what they imagine. They deal with you for 2.5 years, and they created this false persona of who you are based upon the limited information that they had, which was the writings that you displayed in the base newspaper and your voice on the telephone. But they didn't meet you in person, so they didn't see your mannerisms. They didn't see your appearance. They couldn't judge that. So they made up those parts on their own using the limited schemas, the limited information that they had access to, and what their internal database was on how to construct a visualization of Airman DeBoer. Me, somebody that they felt they intimately knew because they had been dealing with me for 2 or 3 years. Literally dealing with me every week, for 2 or 3 years. But then when they saw me for the first time, I could just see this shocked look on their face because I was nothing like they had imagined. And for me, it was funny because it always reminds me how I won't want to say that they're prejudiced, but they are to an extent, because they really thought I was a white dude. They picture most people when they hear my voice only and never saw me or met me, they picture a white person, okay? And then some of them, most people would picture me as this like middle-class white guy, maybe college educated, okay? But they never picture this Asian guy, and then when they see me, they totally freak out. But I bring that all up because, we're talking about how humans are and stuff. And it's okay to have that because that's how your body, that's how your mind, your brain, and everything has to work. Because it always has to try to put stuff into a little box for a point of reference, because otherwise nothing makes any sense. But if you realize that any box that you put things into, categories and things like that, is always prejudiced. It's always based upon whatever limited data set that you have on that knowledge of that subject matter, that item. If you realize that, then you can overcome the prejudices and biasnesses that you have that's it's integrated into how you function as a human. And it allows you to evolve and actually see people more so as a creature, as a living entity like you, like yourself, than somebody who's different. I don't know if that makes sense. But I do believe that if people would behave like that more, cops would not attack black people so much. Some of you say, Denoy is now, he's being a racist. He's saying cops attack. Statistically, that's what happens. Because statistically, I would say that, because I used to teach like in an inner city school, and statistically, a lot of people who are poor, they're not the average middle class white people. And I know it seems like you're being racist and stuff, but it's statistics, it's the mathematics, it's the Asian in me that's watching this. But it also tells me this, that it's unfair to judge every black person that you pull over and automatically treat them like they're some kind of gangster, because they might not be. And when a cop, and I bring up cops because you see cops in the news a lot. Because see, it's very important if you're a cop that you don't fall into that trap of being prejudiced. And you're like, I'm not prejudiced. You are. All humans are, to an extent. You have to fight it constantly to not stereotype and think automatically that if somebody's Asian, they're good at math. Or that if they're black and you pull them over, they're some kind of drug lord or some kind of gangster or whatever. Or that if somebody's behaving a certain way, that they're on drugs. All these are biases that your brain will make. And for most people, it doesn't really affect too much. But when you're a cop with a gun, when you're an attorney or a judge or whatever, and you have these biases, it can affect you, and it can affect somebody's life to the point where you end up shooting somebody innocent. You treat them as if they're a criminal. You criminalize. It's like stereotyping van dwellers, saying all van dwellers are lazy bums and they're on drugs. All van dwellers love smoking marijuana. They're all hippies, whatever. They're all homeless. They're all whatever. It's a stereotype that people have because they don't have any better point of reference. They don't have any schemas. They don't have any box other than what they've seen in the media or in the movies, and that's how this stuff gets built. And that's why it's important that you kind of pay attention to the information that you let get into your brain, because if you only watch like stuff that's not true, it ends up affecting your brain. It ends up affecting you to the point where you start to use that as your point of reference. And then what happens is you think that's real and that's how things are. So if you're only experienced with black people or African Americans, if you want to be more politically correct, okay? If you're only experienced with African Americans is what you see on TVs or movies, you're going to have a really poorly conceived notion of what those souls, those spirits really are like. Because what you're seeing is the facade, the fakeness. You're seeing the Asian who's super smart and good at math. You're seeing, the beautiful blonde, blue-eyed babe or whatever. You're seeing all these things that are really stereotypes that more than likely aren't true. I mean, sometimes they're true, but they're not applicable to everyone that looks like that or even behaves like that. It's like even like gay people and stuff like that. Some in Asia they used to make fun of gay people, but it's not made fun like here in America. In America, when they make fun of gay people, it's almost like they want to kill them. They hate them, But in Asia, especially like in Thailand, it's almost accepted if you're gay. It's like I can't describe it. It was such a culture shock. Like in Thailand, in the Thai movies, when I was a kid growing up, they would always have Thai movies, and they would have gay people on there in the Thai movies. In most Thai movies are like love stories or ghost movies, but most ghost stories they have gay people in there because they're kind of funny. They put them into funny roles, and they have them do funny stuff, and they will act totally gay in the movie. And everybody cracks up and laughs and everything like that. They're not laughing at the fact that they're gay. They're laughing at the joke because it's the kind of joke that you can only pull off if you were gay, And to be gay in Asia or in Thailand was acceptable. It's not looked down upon. That's just how you are. It's not saying that everybody wants to be gay or whatever, but it's just that some people are gay and that's how they are. And In the movies, I guess in a way they were typecast, because usually you don't see gay people playing the leading role of, unless it's a gay movie. But usually they always played the sidekick, the funny character. But in America, for the most part, when I came here and I watched how gay people would treat us, like, it is so weird that they were looked down upon here, that they were looked at as less than acceptable, and which to me was really sad, because it's a cultural bias and how you treat them. It's the same with age, okay? Like in Asia, and some people don't understand this, and I'm still having a hard time dealing with it in America. In Asia, one of the most highly respected things about humans, whether you're African American, Hispanic, Asian, or whatever, okay? One of the most highly regarded traits that you can have as a human is age. Okay, in Asia, age equals wisdom. Somebody who is older, okay, is automatically viewed with great reverence and respect. You're like, but they're senile. Yeah, they may be senile now, but they've lived a life where they've experienced so much more than you. And if they're not senile, it might be worth talking to them and listening to them and learning from their life experience, because they have a lot more knowledge for the most part. Okay, they're seen as somebody who has experienced more and has one of the hardest things to acquire in life, and that is wisdom. So in Asia, to be older is to be revered, to be respected, to be, people will bow down to you. People will look up to you because of age. You could be an idiot, but because you're older, in Asia, everybody will treat you with great reverence. And you're like, what if you behave like an idiot, even though you're older? It doesn't matter. Culturally in Asia, even if you were senile or whatever and you were older, you would be treated with great respect. Okay? In America, on the other hand, they seem to value this thing called youth. It's like a total opposite in how the cultures behave on certain issues. That makes the thing you value here, which is actually looked down upon in Asia, is youth. Youth is vibrant. Youth is full of energy and vitality. And, the products that you try to promote here are designed to promote youthfulness. You've got to look young. Taking these things will make you behave young, make you feel young, color your hair, make yourself look young. All these things are designed to try to hide your wisdom. So in other words, in America, instead of accepting your wisdom as you get older, okay, you try to get rid of that wisdom and behave in a way that makes you like a child, that makes you like a youth who doesn't have that wisdom. So those are just some major differences that I noticed between like Asian cultures and Western cultures, which I think is very interesting. But for me, when I see somebody who's older, typically, I will show them great reverence and respect most of the time, unless they're total jerks. But even then, I will not attack them or do anything like that. I will try to show them respect and leave and get away, because I understand that sometimes, people their brain doesn't work as well when they start getting older, but for the most part, I'm trying to figure out where I need to go. Anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and sign off because I'm trying to find my daughter's house. I got to go pick her up because we're going to have another daddy-daughter day. And I'm going to go ahead and see if I can't find her. But in the meantime, I hope you guys are having a great day and enjoying yourself wherever you are, staying safe, and remembering that, the message, I guess the main message for this video is that money isn't everything. That if you want to become the ultimate human, the ultimate creature that you can become, you can start on it right away. And it doesn't have anything to do with money, but has to do with your outlook and how you treat others. So until next time, everyone, take care. God bless you all. Please stay safe. Take care now. Bye bye.